The market took a nosedive today. Hi, everyone. It's Dow on the Dow. I wanted to go over a few tickers and see where price could be headed and if there are any opportunities to buy the dip. First one I'm going to go over is SPY. SPY ended the day at $468.26, down more than 1%. The day's low, 467.82. The day's high, $475.90. This is where we ended, back at -4 standard deviations. And from where we are, this turns into resistance. 469.31. Should we claw our way back up from there, would take us to 470.79. Another level of resistance, 472.28. The middle of the trend takes us to 475.25, 478.20, 479.66. And don't hold your breath, but if we make it to 4 standard deviations, which I highly doubt, 481.08. Let's talk about this gap that I have been tracking. That would take us to the downside at 454.81. We are not in that channel yet. We are not in that zone. If we make it to here, there is another possibility that this one could eventually close out. There are many landmines to the south side. I have talked about this many times in the past. And it appears that we are starting to kind of not get in the range, but it could be a possibility. Let me flip this over to the 15-minute time frame. Right? And now the daily. See how close we are. If you look at my chart, you can see there were many opportunities, I should say, to swing trade this. Every time you see a red price, that was a gap that filled to the south side. And every time you saw a gap to the north side, that was closed out in green there. So obviously, many swing trades in here and day trades. And obviously investing if you bought down here and rode it up as well. But what goes up must come down. What goes down doesn't necessarily go back up again. But sometimes you have to get down to get back up again. Okay? Yes, it sounds goofy, but it's true. This is where we are. All right? We are still in an upward channel. To the north side takes us back to 482.45. The middle of the trend where price grinds before making its way to the south side or to the upside if we are south. That would be roughly 457.93. That is the middle of the trend. And then that gap that I mentioned here also starting there at 446.10, closing out at 440.54. But -2 standard deviations, 433.33. I always expect price to stay within, as you know, doesn't matter what time frame, negative. Oh, there we go. -2 standard deviations to 2. Okay, anywhere up here. If we happen to make it out here, this is an outlier. It's a signal. If you are just swing trading, playing, rolling the dice, this is a signal to get out. Price does not stay up here without taking a breather and going to the south side. You can't expect that to happen. And on the daily time frame here, you can see price fell apart here, back down to support. If we're making our way up, that's resistance. Up here, resistance. Back down turns into support. But always anticipate a sell-off at resistance as people take their profits and they run. That is SPY. I will flip this over to the 5-minute again and move on. The next one, I'm going to recap Tesla very quickly. We ended the day at 247.14 to the north side at resistance, 249.07, 251.43. The middle of the trend takes us to 256.25, 260.93, 263.25, and 265.60. This gap that I have been tracking finally closed today. This was the nearest gap to the south side that finally, as I mentioned, closed. No longer in play. And we have other gaps that I have talked about in the past. This one takes us down to 239.18. We are not in that zone just yet. But once we complete that gap fill, another one to watch out for, to keep on your radar, closes out at 224.04. And I think there are other landmines, yeah, but I don't want to bring that up right now. That's just down the road should we go south. But on the 5-minute, we are still in an upward channel. On the daily, it's going to look like a hot mess. All right, I've tracked this a gazillion times, but again, note the red prices, I should say there, and the green. Those are all gaps either to the upside or to the downside that you could have played. And I do own Tesla. 247.14 is where we ended right here. Back to the middle of the trend, if I can see this. Like I said, it looks like a hot mess. Right here, that would take us to roughly 257.10. And at 2 standard deviations on the daily, this is the big picture. It's not going to get here in one day. 321.81, and to the south side, roughly 191.89. A bunch of landmines first to get through before we make it down there, and we're not there yet. So do not panic. This could be a buying opportunity for some of you who are trying to get in for a swing trade, but just pay attention to the RSI and the MACD as well. I'm going to flip this back to the 5-minute and move on. The next one will be the Wynn Resorts. It made it on bar charts, unusual options activities. So I thought I would take a look at it. Oh, one other thing on Tesla. Let me take this over to the 15. In the 15-minute time frame, to the south side would take us to 243.83 at -3 standard deviations, 237.89, and at -4 standard deviations, where I will anticipate a bounce, 232.30, and that will also begin the gap to the downside. Now back to the Wynn. All right, to the north side takes us to 88.77. This is resistance. Support turns into resistance. 89.57, back to the middle of the trend where I will anticipate price to grind its way back. 91.07. 92.64. 93.40, which I don't think we'll get there in one day. 94.14. The prices I'm giving you are price targets for Thursday again, so keep that in mind. This is the 5-minute time frame. Looking left, this gap turn on the magnet. Gapped up, that's a gap and go. I will continue this. Oh, my session has been disconnected because my dad is on my account. So I'm going to end it there. I wanted to go over FedEx, CVS, Mara, CCJ, CVS, J&J, and Tesla, which I did do, and Boeing. So I will probably take a look at that in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for watching.